My daughter accused me of abuse to help my wife live with the rich man. They took my wealth and reputation for luxury. At 45, I am new to this platform. I found this site by chance and decided to register with a discreet name to share my experience. I have been married to Selena, 43, for 23 years. Our family includes Deborah, 21, and Milo, 14. My occupation as a construction supervisor allowed me to support our home, while Selena worked part-time as a receptionist at a nearby clinic. Financially, we lived frugally, but we managed to give our children a decent life, making some sacrifices like any middle-class family. Everything changed about a year ago. Selena began to exhibit typical infidelity behaviors, as obvious as Christmas lights. Every time I tried to talk about it, she accused me of exaggerating, being paranoid, or behaving like a possessive husband. The situation became clear when Deborah approached me, visibly upset. She told me she had seen her mother eating with a stranger. Although it could have been a coworker, we both knew the reality was different. Selena was not just sharing lunches with this individual, she was having a romantic relationship with him. The man turned out to be Robert, 50, a wealthy real estate entrepreneur new to our community, famous for his extravagant celebrations and ostentatious displays of wealth. Apparently, Selena had been secretly attending these gatherings for months. When confronted, she admitted the situation and expressed her desire for a divorce because she had fallen in love with Robert. Suddenly, 23 years together were reduced to nothing. Up to that point, my case seemed like a typical story of betrayal, where a wife leaves her husband for another. I had accepted it. She was looking for someone with greater purchasing power, and I did not want to continue with someone materialistic. The solution seemed simple: grant the divorce and move on. However, the worst was yet to come. The infidelity hurt, but I managed to get over it. The real problem arose when Deborah, who had revealed the betrayal, sided with her mother. Initially, I thought she would support me, considering her outrage at discovering the deception, but money proved persuasive. She accused me of being a failure, of providing them with a mediocre life due to a lack of ambition. These words, from my own daughter, not a stranger, caused indescribable pain. The legal process was devastating. With Robert's financial resources, Selena destroyed me in court. I was portrayed as emotionally abusive, controlling, and negligent, describing someone completely alien to me. To make matters worse, Deborah testified against me, claiming I had anger issues, that I was cruel to her and her mother, and even that I had threatened her. Everything was false, every claim. But Deborah was convincing, with her eloquence and confidence, earning the judge's credibility. I could not prove otherwise. The court awarded Selena almost everything: the house, most of our savings, and, most painfully, full custody of Milo. I lost my marriage, my home, and my relationship with my children. Milo begged to stay with me, but being a minor, his opinion carried little weight. I was granted limited visits, not enough for me. With my lawyer, we requested paternity tests for both children as a legal strategy, but they were indeed mine, so we could not prove prolonged infidelity. The recent betrayal mattered little to the judge, who saw me as a monster, while considering that Selena sought refuge in Robert for protection. As if that were not enough, Deborah filed a restraining order alleging fear for her safety, even though I had not seen her since the trial. Officially, I was excluded from their lives. 3 months ago, I began to rebuild my existence, but it has been difficult. I could have handled the situation with my wife, but the situation with my children, especially Milo, destroyed me. I moved into a small apartment and focused all my energy on work. The only positive thing was my improved financial situation, saving considerably and increasing my income with multiple simultaneous projects. For a while, I tried to stay away, hoping time would heal the wounds and maybe Deborah would discover the truth. But nothing changed. Selena settled down with Robert, and Deborah followed. They lived in a mansion, enjoying the lifestyle Selena had always craved. Apparently, they had everything: wealth, comfort, and status. The court order prevented me from contacting Deborah to try to get her to rectify her testimony. I could not risk violating it because it would jeopardize my rights to Milo. Soon, the situation worsened. Milo would call me secretly from Selena's house, describing his hatred of living with Robert, his controlling nature, and how miserable everything had become. He told me that Robert monitored absolutely every aspect of their lives, including calls and conversations. Ironically, it coincided exactly with the accusations Deborah had made against me, but this time, it was real. Last week, something unexpected happened. I received several desperate messages from Deborah. I did not know how to act because of the restraining order. In her texts, Deborah explained how Robert had become verbally abusive to her and Selena. He controlled their expenses, constantly criticized their actions, and flew into a rage if they did not obey his rules. He kept permanent surveillance on their movements, contacts, and activities. Deborah mentioned that Robert humiliated Selena in front of her, insulted her, and treated her like a possession, criticized her appearance, and even her work decisions. The man for whom they left me turned out to be a nightmare. I immediately noticed the irony. Everything Deborah falsely accused me of, Robert was actually doing, and now she was asking me for help, even though the court order prevented her from doing so directly. At this point, my dilemma regarding Deborah was whether it would make me a bad father to let her face the consequences of her own actions. She was now experiencing exactly what she had accused me of doing, a valuable lesson. My main concern was Milo, trapped in that house. I could use Deborah's help, but I was afraid of violating the restraining order and making the situation worse. I did not want to risk Milo being completely isolated there. I doubted the messages would be enough evidence. I understood that helping Milo would mean indirectly helping Deborah, who did not deserve my support. However, I would not punish my son just because my daughter and ex-wife tried to ruin my life. Update 1. The comments on my story are numerous, which is comforting. I appreciate all opinions, even those that differ from my perspective. Some suggest that I should help Deborah unconditionally because she is my daughter, rescuing her from that abuser, even though she portrayed me as one. They argue that a father must forgive his children. I do not share this view, but I want to show that I have read all the suggestions. Milo has contacted me again secretly to avoid suspicion. According to him, the situation with Robert has deteriorated. The dominant behavior mentioned by Deborah has intensified. Robert prevents Deborah and Selena from going out without informing him where they are going and when they will return, always with his prior authorization. My son describes Robert as obsessed with dominating every aspect of their lives. He has heard him yelling at Selena for trivial things like being 5 minutes late. He also informed me that his sister, who previously considered Robert ideal, is now deeply afraid of him. According to Milo, she spends most of her time locked up, avoiding any interaction with Robert so as not to provoke his anger. Selena seems completely submissive and has stopped confronting him, obeying all his demands. Although I remain indifferent to their problems, I am extremely worried about Milo. He claims that Robert does not mistreat him, but I do not know if he is telling the truth or simply avoiding worrying me. I immediately contacted my lawyer after my previous post. He advised me to proceed cautiously, document all the information provided by Deborah, and file a police report, emphasizing my concern for their safety, not revenge. He also suggested requesting the annulment of the restraining order given the new circumstances. I followed his recommendations, went to the police, and filed the report, describing Robert's behavior according to Deborah and Milo's accounts. I even used audio recordings sent by Milo and Deborah's messages as support. The officer who took my statement was understanding, but warned that without Deborah or Selena's personal presence, his options were limited. I know the limitations of the judicial system, but I cannot help but feel frustrated. Simultaneously, my lawyer filed a request to revoke the restraining order. We are waiting for a response from the court, trusting that the judge will understand the seriousness of the case and lift the restriction, at least temporarily. During this process, I am keeping in contact with Milo, my only stable link, as even my lawyer recommends not violating the court order. He is just a child caught in this chaos. I assure him that I am doing everything legally possible to help them. I also clearly instructed him that if he perceives imminent danger to himself or anyone else, he should immediately contact emergency services. I even suggested that he discreetly save some money and essential items in case he needs to leave quickly. He has shown extraordinary courage, although I know he is carrying an excessive burden for his age. I will report any news, but for now, I reiterate my thanks for your advice and support. It has been a difficult few months, but at least I no longer feel alone. Perhaps I should have shared my story much earlier. Update 2. Before I continue, I want to address the suggestions about breaking into the house and taking Milo. I have considered this option, feeling powerless. However, this would only cause the courts to take my son away from me and return him to Robert, who would also know my intentions and could retaliate by harming Milo. So far, Milo was relatively safe, and I always sought to act strategically to minimize his suffering. I recognize that Selena and Deborah are suffering in this situation, but as adults, they chose this path. They could leave that home and report him. This introduction provides context for my update. It should bring good news, but I fear it may be premature or may not represent a permanent improvement. The situation seems to be developing a will of its own, becoming even more unpredictable. A few nights ago, Milo called me, terrified. Whispering, he recounted how Robert had lost control upon discovering something Deborah did without his approval. According to Milo, Robert went into an uncontrollable rage, grabbed Deborah's phone, and smashed it against the wall while yelling at her furiously. When Selena tried to intervene, Robert directed his anger at her, not just verbally, but physically. As a father, hearing these details from your son is devastating. Milo described Robert's fury as something he had never witnessed before. I told him to hold on and immediately call the police, giving them the exact address. I also contacted my lawyer, who informed me that given the risk to my son, I could justifiably violate the restraining order. Therefore, I went there personally. Upon arriving at Robert's residence, the police were already present. They were demanding that Robert come out, but he refused. From outside, we could hear the yelling. Everything seemed to be happening in slow motion. I was waiting at the edge of the driveway when I heard a crash, something breaking inside, and suddenly the front door flew open. Deborah ran out first, tears streaming down her face. She came straight to me, apologizing before I could react. I only asked about Milo. Fortunately, Milo and Selena appeared afterward, completely pale. I ran to hug my son while the paramedics attended to Deborah and Selena. Deborah had no serious injuries, but Selena, on the other hand, had a bloody face from a cut near her forehead and eyelid, an area that bleeds profusely, creating a shocking image. Meanwhile, the police were arresting Robert inside the house. They brought him out handcuffed, visibly enraged. He was shouting threats against all of us. I do not think even all his fortune will be able to help him this time. The police took everyone's statements. Deborah, Selena, and Milo detailed months of various types of abuse. Deborah confessed that Robert's manipulation and control began almost immediately after moving in with him. He had isolated them, created financial and emotional dependence, and gradually destroyed their self-esteem. She admitted that all her claims during the trial about my alleged abuse and anger issues were false, prompted by Robert and Selena, who were living in a distorted reality at the time. My lawyer also came to legally protect me in case of arrest for violating the restraining order, although it turned out to be unnecessary. Selena, perhaps in shock from the trauma, also apologized and acknowledged having allowed her ambition for a better life to cloud her judgment about Robert. She admitted her mistake, not only for believing Robert's lies, but for involving Deborah and Milo in them. After the police left and Robert was arrested, we began to assimilate our new reality. The restraining order was immediately revoked, and my lawyer is working to reopen the divorce case. Selena and Deborah could face legal consequences for false testimony, which I consider fair. It would be the first time I have gotten any justice. Currently, Milo is living with me in my small apartment. It is a small space compared to our old house, but we need to be together. I do not know the current whereabouts of Selena and Deborah, but having my son safe here is all that matters. I have scheduled therapy sessions for Milo and, if necessary, for myself as well. The family is irreparably broken, at least including Selena and Deborah, but I still have my little family of two, Milo and me. This shows why I could not just take him. All this suffering of Deborah and Selena could have fallen on Milo if I had acted rashly, without police intervention. The same police who ignored my previous complaints and allowed this situation to escalate before acting. If I had intervened when there was not enough evidence against Robert and Milo had returned to that house, I would never forgive myself if, instead of Selena, he was the one who was injured or worse. Update 3. The main thing is that Robert is facing formal charges for multiple counts of domestic violence, controlling behavior, and criminal threats. Knowing that he remains in custody is a great relief, and the prosecutor has assured us that given the abundance of evidence and our testimonies, it is highly unlikely he will be granted bail before the trial. This is excellent news, because anyone who witnessed him being led away in handcuffs that night would understand that people like that should remain incarcerated for a long time. Robert's arrest caused a community commotion, especially considering his carefully crafted public image. No one suspected the true personality hidden behind the wealth and charm. In private, he was completely different, feeding on the control and fear of others. His trial is still a long way off, but I trust that justice will be served. Some are asking about our future plans. Milo is still living with me, while Selena and Deborah are staying with a friend of my ex-wife. She has requested Milo's return, but I replied that I deserve time with him after what happened. She has not argued with this decision. The adjustment is strange. You might consider me insensitive for not forgiving my daughter, for not acknowledging that she was manipulated, first by Selena and then by Robert, but no one physically forced her to testify against me. Her only motivation was money and the lifestyle offered by her new stepfather. Sometimes parents have to let their children make wrong decisions so they can see our warnings come true. Deborah made an extremely wrong one, and her punishment now is my inability to see her the same way. Honestly, I do not know if I will ever be able to. I cannot promise to forgive her, nor can I promise the opposite. They would be impossible promises to keep. In the legal realm, my lawyer has been exceptional. Thanks to Deborah's retraction and the new evidence of Robert's abusive behavior, we have managed to reopen the divorce case. The judge has indicated that he will likely overturn the original ruling, heavily biased by false accusations. This means that I could recover some of what I lost: financial stability, my home, and, most importantly, my dignity. I have mixed feelings. I never imagined having the opportunity to clarify the situation. And while it is bittersweet to know the damage that was caused, I am grateful for this new possibility. Many have expressed concern for Milo, and I thank you for that. Despite his youth, he shows great strength. His resilience and maturity amaze me. At only 14, he has faced this crisis with unexpected serenity. A father should not normally lean on his son, but rather the other way around. However, Milo is my support, simply with his presence. You cannot imagine how much I missed him. Eventually, he will have to return to his mother, unless I get full custody, a real possibility at the moment. But even without getting it, I am happy to think that I will share more time with him. You also asked if I have forgiven Selena. The answer is more complex than a simple no. I have not forgiven the infidelity or the perjury in court. At least she has begun to make amends by partially confessing her actions. I do not think there is a middle ground between forgiving and not forgiving. But to define my current feelings towards Selena, I would describe them as complicated. I will not resume our relationship, nor will I maintain a friendship with her, but at least she is not making the situation any more complicated. She could legally demand Milo's immediate return to live with her, but she avoids doing so. I think she fears my legal retaliation, but this will not soften my stance. I will judicially claim everything that is rightfully mine. Her current cooperation will only determine whether our future relationship will be completely negative or minimally cordial. Update 4. Robert has not eliminated me simply. Legal processes take time. I preferred not to update without relevant news until today, when we had an important hearing. Initially, the divorce has been reversed, and with it, many previous losses. First, the house that was awarded to Selena as compensation for portraying me as an abuser, a property she sold when she moved in with Robert. Not only has this award been annulled, but I have fully recovered the house. The only drawback is its prior sale, which was solved by equivalent financial compensation plus an additional amount for having sold it hastily below its real value. Milo's custody has been reviewed, and considering Selena's history, I requested and obtained full custody. He will stay with me permanently, and Selena will have visitation rights. Obviously, she did not anticipate this request from me, changing her recent attitude, but I warned that I would fight for everything I deserved, and so I proceed. We are also suing Robert for his interference in the divorce process. With the financial compensation, we are looking for a new residence with Milo. The small apartment will be left behind. We want individual space for each of us, a recreation room, and even a large garden for sports activities. You will notice that these plans exclude Deborah, absent from this update. This reflects her current irrelevance in my life. I am not unfairly favoring Milo, as some suggest. Deborah has simply proven to be an extremely disappointing daughter. And I will not wait for another betrayal when she finds a more convenient substitute father figure. Both she and her mother have received fines for perjury, receiving some legal sanction. Socially, neither can appear in public without being recognized first for their association with Robert, but also for perjury and for the suffering inflicted on Milo.